Are you a mover looking to make an impact? Discover Moving Letters AI and join the ML Plus Club today. Elevate your customer engagement with the personal touch of handwritten letters.
Austin Yarbrough here with Central Coast Moving and Storage. There's no way I could write these at a massive level to get massive action, to get massive results. I highly recommend using this company.
Don't miss out. Join the revolution and start making moves that matter.
Put a golden damn ticket in there with Moving Letters AI.
Welcome back to Movified. I am your host, Mark Hirschi, owner of Salmon's Transfer right here in beautiful Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. And it is my pleasure to guide you through the ins and outs of the moving industry, sharing insights, stories, tips, and tricks on how to help your moving business thrive. This episode is special because it's also sponsored by our friends and partners at Movermarketing.ai. When I first started working with them, I knew I had trouble with my website and I needed help fast. But I didn't realize just how transformative their approach could be, from meticulously optimizing our website for search engine optimization to crafting engaging content that resonates with our audience. Mover Marketing AI has redefined what it means to be visually online. If you want to learn more, check out the links on our posts, whether it is on YouTube or on our social media platforms. You cannot miss out with going with movermarketing.ai. Now, today, I'm excited because I have John Hamilton here from Brooks Moving and Hauling, but not so much about talking about your moving business, John. We're going to talk about something totally different. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself for those people that have no idea who you are, and then we're going to run it from there.
Sounds good, Mark. I appreciate you having me on, man. It's been a couple weeks since I seen you at the Moving Titan Retreat.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, John Hamilton, Brooks Moving and Hauling. Been in the industry, I don't know, not very long now, 4 or 5 years. But I guess over the course of this time, we've 15x'd the company that I purchased. And one of the biggest, I did a lot of learning, right? Soul searching from the from the local aspect of moving, learning the long distance, and now we just merged with another company. Now we're getting into the international sector, which is fun. But I saw a lot of gaps, and through the gaps, I saw that we needed some sales training that was very specific to the industry, and the videos, in the past couple of years that I tried to find to onboard and train my movers to automate a little bit of those systems were just lacking. And, I think 1992, it seems like, I don't know the exact year, but that's the newest stuff I could find that was out there that wasn't on YouTube. So decided to get some sales training built out and some mover training built out. And so I guess my goal overall is to help the industry. I love helping people. I love watching the people around me grow and network and be a part of that. And Mark, I think you and I met through networking events through the moving industry. So
totally. To me, always, it's the way. I was having a conversation actually just before we go on here with another moving company, where it was probably one of the first times I actually had like a half-hour conversation with him. I know who he is. His moving company runs about an hour outside of Vancouver, and we sometimes have messaged back and forth where he's either selling storage vaults or selling some stuff, and I've always hit him up, and we respect each other, but never been like, hey, how do you do this? And one of the conversations we had was, this conversation probably wouldn't exist like 10 years ago. Most of the time, and we've talked about this on the podcast before, you flash back 5-10 years and nobody really was open to wanting to share what they were doing. And lots of moving companies either struggled. A lot of moving company owners were born into the industry, so they understood the moving part of it, but not the business side of it. And others flourished off of someone else's loss. So when I look at all of that kind of stuff, it really resonates with going, man, today in 2024, there's so much more opportunity out there with Facebook pages and network events that are not just honed in on van lines. And van lines were really the guys that constantly had the conferences where you got to get to know each other. But it was like a boys club. Like you hung out in that corner, you hung out in that corner. No one's really sharing tips. The van line conferences were always just explaining what was going on in the van line industry and not so much on like, hey, how are you doing sales today? And how are you marketing your moving company? What are you doing for training your guys? And just like you were saying, John, I remember having like VHS tapes because that's all that was handed to you for training, right? And it was like somebody from like the 80s or early 90s being, and it was so dry and you had no references on making sure if the guys are learning anything or not. And it's been an ongoing conversation with a lot of moving company owners to go, how do I train my guys? Because there's two ways of doing it. One is here's a shirt, you look clean cut, away you go. And then the other one is, okay, we have to bring them in the office. We're doing a mass hire. We have some training packages set up. We're going to do some theory, then maybe go out to the warehouse and do some, with some used furniture that's been donated. Let's see how you can wrap this up. And let's see how you can do this on the truck. And you as any moving company does their own separate training. I've learned in the industry that each driver, especially if they came from another moving company, has a totally different way of training somebody than the other guy. Oh yeah, we wrap this furniture in the truck. No, we wrap this on site. Oh, we leave clothing in the dresser. We don't leave clothing in the dresser. As a new swamper or new helper, you're like, oh my God, like what is it? What's the answer? And I feel like now as we're going into 2024, you guys have found a solution. There is now this new platform out there for moving company owners called Tighten Up Training, which is what we're going to really dive into today, that basically solves it all for lots of moving companies that are struggling with that aspect in their business. How did this evolve? Can you I know you are fundamental on how the development came into being. How did this ball get rolling to say, hey, this is what we're going to do?
Yeah. So I think, you hit the nail on the head, man. There really hasn't been anything out there for a long time that's really up to date. I think some of the videos we were watching were showing how to wrap and pad like tube TVs. Man, it's pretty embarrassing. I think if you fast forward a couple of years, welcome to today. We've got flat screen TVs. We've got, things that we're doing differently. And man, it was just a huge gap. And all these people that I knew were like, oh, I'm going to shoot my own videos. I'm going to do this. And it's like, man, some of us as owners, we don't even have enough time to reconcile our bank account, which is the most important thing. How are we going to even get the time to shoot videos and find people that know what they're doing and be to the standard that we want? So I set out on a journey, to do this for my own company, but obviously I was reaching out to vendors and stuff like that to see if I could find somebody to do it for me. And through that process, I think the other thing we talked about that was missing was the sales aspect. There's sales training out there. It's everywhere, right? Car sales training. You want to go sell, I don't know, you name it, you could sell it. There's a course on it, but there's nothing out there in the industry for sales, right? Louis Massaro did a great job of setting up the infrastructure for sales and stuff like that, but there's really no meat behind the structure of what to say or how to say it, right? It's more so, here's your platform for a great sales team. This is your platform and structure to have a sales representative and a manager and how to compensate those people. All very, very valuable information. But then it left me with this question mark over the top of my head, like, all right, well, what do we say? And where do we go from here? So I was through this journey. I was trying to find all these pieces to make my life easier, because I was doing both, right? I'm sure we've all, a lot of us maybe listening or can resonate, but we're sitting there trying to train guys. We're trying to train sales guys. We're trying to got people in the office. Meanwhile, the phones are blowing up. We're trying to coordinate moves, deal with operations and all the things that can come along with it. But I spoke with Wade and Chad, good friends of mine, over at the Moving Titan retreats, and Andy Elliott was actually coming into town over in Tampa. Well, I had been sending my brother, who was my sales manager, out to them for, I don't know, I'd send him to a couple of meetings with them, and he always brought back really great insight, new techniques. And I just really liked the techniques that Andy and his team taught. And I know a lot of people can be off put by his demeanor and how he works and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, and he'll even tell you it's all a show, right? It's social media. How do you catch people's attention? How do you keep them engaged? And how you do it is by entertaining them. And that's what he does. He entertains people. But if you really meet the guy and you listen to him and you listen to what his values are and stuff like that, he's just a dude I could get behind. He talks about having standards, having your team meet your standards, and selling with intent and selling with a purpose in your company and in your business to make everybody's lives easier and better. And it starts with believing in what you sell. So I approached his team. I was like, hey, can you guys build me a platform for sales training? And so I guess back up a little bit, right? So we talked about the event. When Andy was in Tampa, I called Chad and Wade. I took them to the event, and they were blown away. They loved the guy. So I approached Bryson Kirby, one of his sales guys. Him and Maria are awesome, and asked them if they could build a platform for us. And they were like, "Yeah, sure, let's do it." So through the course of a couple of months, we were working through things, and I talked to Chad and Wade, and the conversation had come up, "Hey, are you guys looking to sell this thing?" And I was like, "Well, I didn't really consider it, but yeah, I mean, I think it's a gap in the industry. I think it's something that'll make us all better, and I think it's something that'll definitely help people, cut down time on training and bring a different approach to the sales aspect that we could do." And so through this course, we're learning their platform and getting intimate with their platform, and voila, we find out that we can upload basically any type of videos that we wanted in this thing. And that's when the light bulb went off. Like, all right, we need mover training. So we started developing mover training, and we got that all uploaded into the platform. I mean, we spent well into the six figures getting all this stuff done. We've got Netflix cameras with 180 degree LED video, studio production and all this lingo I don't really know, but it was really cool. And
a lot of people are going to say too, when you look at the initial stage, because guys go, okay, cool, like maybe we'll just take a camera in our warehouse and we'll start filming it. I know there's lots of guys out here, especially when it just comes to social media reels. We quickly will make them being like, this is how we wrap a furniture pat, like how we wrap a dresser. And hey, this is how we wrap dishes. And, it's a very common like moving tips 101 that is easy for moving company owners to go, okay, let's just get one of our pretty face guys out there, and let's go through this process. And it's great. It's a great exposure for their website, for their company brand as well too. But it really doesn't do justice when it comes down to wanting to train your guys. And it's also a cheap alternative. Now you're mentioning six figures. That doesn't come just from like Mr. John Hamilton's wallet pocket. He just like headed to the bank and says, hey, cool, I want to do this. You had to find obviously a group of guys that were interested in wanting to do this together. I'm going to assume and say, okay, like who's interested in investing? How does that go? Now, the dying question always that people are going to go is, okay, cool. So you just grabbed a bunch of your friends that are in the moving industry and away you go. You just built this thing. Or were you selective on going, okay, we're going to be very picky on who we want to bring in that can help elevate this to the best possibility? Like, how was that, for handpicking who you wanted to bring in to this Titan moving? Like, this Tighten Up training?
No, I mean, I think I hit the nail on the head, Mark. For me, it was a very intricate play on who I wanted to bring into this, right? I wanted people that had experience. I wanted people that had a developed name in our circle and in our industry. I wanted people I enjoyed working with and that had a quality product. It wasn't just about, hey, let's get a bunch of dudes together. I wanted something that we could stand behind. And I knew Chad and Wade with Moving Titan Retreats was a phenomenal a reference because I know what they had built. I know their background. I knew them for a couple of years and saw where they came from and where they are today. And through that, I thought it's the perfect vertical for what the moving tighten retreats is all about. It's about helping the industry. It's about helping people grow, and bringing value. And I think it was just a perfect addition. So yeah, I mean, they were on board. We had a moving tighten retreat in Tampa, I don't know, a while back, and we had brought up the tighten up training to some people, and then we had some people step in and they wanted to invest. They were interested. They wanted to be a part of it. They wanted to share their systems and processes in that as well. And it was really cool because people came together. They're willing to share their own internal SOPs on how they do things, which you don't see that. And that's when I knew that there was value in the team that we had. And, do we have disagreements? I think we do occasionally, but we always went into this with a sense of, let's be direct, right? No matter what it is, let's just be direct. Let's get this shit off of our chest. Let's get this stuff done. And so it was just amazing, bringing those guys together and picking who we wanted on this team to invest, be part of the process. Cause it's not easy. It's not easy when you got 4 business owners, multiple things going on and money involved, sure, and production and everything else. So it's a journey. It's going to continue to be a journey. And, I think
I think my phone must have been off that day, or your email to me just kind of landed in spam when you were like, Mark, we really want to bring you on to this Tighten Up training program. So it's totally fine. I get it. I must have missed the phone call. No problem.
What's funny is right around the time we started developing all this, that's when this podcast came out, and I thought it was cool because I saw what you guys were doing. I loved the concept, the marketing AI and the podcast, which is really cool because you have a different spin on the podcast and bringing value. And I was like, all right, I think these guys are, these are part of the clan too.
Yeah. We joke about it because it seems as though you got the East Coast boys and then you have the West Coast group of guys, that we all have the same mentality, the same idea, the same concept, all with just like a small little spin on it. And me and Wade, if you haven't heard of Wade Swinkle's podcast, Grow Your Moving Company, it's an amazing podcast. He's like the OG for the moving podcast platforms, where he has some amazing guests on there, John Hamilton being one of them, that has been on, I think, a couple times, and it's definitely a great listen. So after you check this one out, go check his out as well too. I think we both do some great collaborations with our guests that we have that have been doubled on, and I think it works out really well for the way we host and do our podcast. Yeah. So it's great. Yeah. So let's dive into this Tighten Up training because, for a lot of people, they're kind of going to go, it's like a hit and miss. And lots of, I think some of the feedback that people always will give when it comes down to training is, okay, this is nice, but, where are you getting your facts on how is this wrapped? We don't do this in our company. So am I skipping over this video? Like, how are my guys going to learn from here if this is not what we're already implementing at our moving company? Like, what do you say to some of those naysayers that kind of go, well, okay, cool, I've checked it out, but the videos just don't work for me. Like, half these videos don't make any sense. I don't wrap these cartons like this. I don't like, how did you guys come together to say, okay, like this is the platform. This is how we want to teach and handpick the different segments that are going to be the most valuable.
So I think we went into this with the mentality of we got to teach the bare minimums. And a lot of people that we are working with, we know that they had maybe minimums on the truck, right? We're talking about small, independent, local movers. So there may have been experience, there may have not been experience, but what are the bare minimums that we have, right? We got shrink wrap, we got boxes, we got moving pads. And that was the ultimate goal of getting that stuff out there to say, okay, if I don't have these things, right? I don't have this specialty thing or specialty this or specialty that, how can we get this job done? And so that is the real basic foundation of how we laid out the training and Tighten Up training. Now, has there been conversations about development and more specialty items, long distance packing, how to service items, how to do things like that? Absolutely. But we knew coming out of the gate, as anything, you're never going to, when you start a moving company, you don't just start out with local, long distance, international, specialty packing and creating white glove services,
Sure.
final miles, and that's the same, mentality that we went into this with, is like, how do we teach the bare basics of this? But the most valuable part for us really was the sales side. Right. And some people balk at I think it's $397 a month right now, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, the first month that I had my sales team doing this, I saw an 8% increase in their closing ratios. And that told me that $397 probably made me $40,000, right? Or $50,000.
Right.
So, to me, it's worth every penny, right? And now you're teaching movers how to properly do stuff if they weren't before, or you're just throwing them a t-shirt. And the fundamentals are there. And now I tell my guys, look, like, you're going to go through this training, whether you're great, you're good, you're new, you're old. What I want you to get out of this is that I want there to be a basic understanding on that truck of how to do things. So you as a foreman, you may know how to do this, but I want you to have the expectation of your helpers to know that they know how to do these things. Because if you don't know the expectation, how are you going to hold them accountable? And so I've been able to get a lot less pushback by framing it that way from my movers. And they're like, okay, this makes sense. And then a lot of them leave it and they go, man, I actually learned a couple things. I've never used paper to wrap a rug. I'm like, so at the end of the day, they end up learning and taking away a couple nuggets. But, it's, again, bare basics as of right now. Basic mirrors, kitchens, couches, tables, curio cabinets, how to handle parts, how to fold pads, the stuff that's time consuming for us to do and walk through the warehouse and teach.
Oh, totally. And I think for those that are listening that really are going, look, I've kind of heard of Tighten Up Training, or maybe you haven't even heard of this new training platform. Let's kind of break it down. I'm going to break it down for you, and then we can kind of go down into segments on here. When someone signs up on here, you're creating a user profile. You can also have it so that you can have multiple profiles. I think there's different programs or segments to have as many users or limited users, depending on what program you're signing up for. But John's touching on the sales training part of it. So let's just even talk about that. For those listening, you have to realize that it's, you have mover training videos, which is great, but you can actually have it so that your sales staff only log in to get the sales training knowledge. And the way that sales training works, you're thinking, okay, cool. Like, all right, I see that Andy Elliott is the guy that's training this. He's pretty rough and everything else. And like John talked in the beginning, you watch those videos and it is like a 180, because I want to say like the showmanship, that whole crazy presentation that you'll see on sometimes his social media reels is not what you're seeing on those videos. He
Right.
has been trained and understood what it takes for a moving sales consultant in this world, in this industry that we are. And he's not trying to come in saying, okay, let's teach you how to be like a sleazy car salesman. Or like,
Right.
this is the tactics that we use to sell cars. It's no. This is how we're going to talk and teach you how to deal with objectives, which I think is some of the hardest things that we try and train our moving consultants on, because they're easy. Once they get trained, they're like, okay, cool. Like, I know how to sell off like a 2-bedroom apartment or anything else. But what happens when that customer is like, I really got to consult my husband. I got to talk to my wife. I'm really hesitant. We haven't sold our home yet. Like, there's all these different objectives that, as a moving company owner, sure, you can sit down and go, okay, what are the most frequent objectives that come up? But he's going through this in those training programs, and it's, to me, it's like ready gold like that. Like John's saying, like the increase in percentage of closing that he's seen from his staff is huge. Totally already worth the $400. But there's more. It's like, let's like encompassing in that monthly fee that you're paying, there's more. Now you have the mover training, right? So that mover training is not just here's a bunch of videos and they're long drawn out. It is a boom, 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 like 3-minute videos. What do you say, like 3 to 5 minutes tops? I think they're all basically almost around like 3 minutes. Yep. And they are fast training that should get to the point for someone new that's understanding the industry. And then guess what? There's questions after. And I think I joked with Wade and Chad when I was on there, and I was like, oh shit, I just got 50%. I totally got one wrong. I totally thought I had it right. So, there's those tests. And as the business owner, you can delegate your operations manager on there, or your dispatcher, whoever you want to control it, can see how well they're doing. Are they even watching those videos? Are they doing it? I know after this thing launched, I had conversations with lots of moving company owners that were interested in getting this thing started. And the big topic of conversation was, how are we going to incentivize our guys? Because it's like a 3-hour investment to sit there from start to finish, to kind of go through it all and sit there. And there's been some really innovative ways with saying, okay, whoever finishes first, gets like $500, and then after that, you only get $100 if you finish it. But, you have to finish this thing up. You have to get it done within a week period before you get to go on to these types of moves. Or, there's ways that you can. And I'm sure if you reached out to Faith or even hit up John, they probably have a lot of great ideas to help incentivize your movers to get, hey, this is how you can do the training. So, boom, we've hit 2 of those topics. Yeah. Now I know John's not just a pretty face, because this guy's even on those videos talking in leadership as well too. And coming from Mr. Hamilton's background, being in the military, leadership is key in achieving what you want. And like they always say, it starts at the top. Yep. There's a whole video segment on leadership for us business owners to take a step back and, we have to humble ourselves at times, saying like, maybe we aren't the best leader. Maybe there's always something to learn. And if we're not learning, personal development equals to success. And that's the only way we can look at it. And there's a whole video part on leadership. And then there's more, right? Like, I'm just going to keep going on here. Then we get into fitness. There's a whole segment on fitness on there where, I remember I started watching one of the videos. It's like, set a timer, right? And when that timer goes off, make sure you're standing up, make sure you're shaking it off. Like, once you go down and do 20 push-ups or something, like that mental clarity needs to be key. And it's not to go say, hey, turn around and open up a gym in your moving company. Maybe you don't have that space for it. But have you ever thought about taking like a 10-minute break with everybody or half your staff and just go outside of the office, if you have one, or even outside of a storage facility that you're renting or anything else, and just do like 5 minutes of stretching and just shake it off with everybody, or like just see how loud they can all yell and just get out whatever that pressure is at month end and feel better about themselves. I mean, it's about just because you are head of the game, you are not thriving if you're not thinking about the fitness side of things. Yeah, no, absolutely. And it was, for me, I kind of explain it as I went on this journey of self-mastery, if you will, right? And, one of my favorite sayings, the fish rots at the head. And and that just makes you think, right? From the business perspective, if we're not taking ownership as owners, right? And we're always pointing fingers. I always look at it as, if I'm pointing a finger, there's 4 pointing back at me. I want to know if I didn't deliver a clear objective for you to hit, then ultimately I'm the one at fault, right? You took what I gave you to understand it how you felt was necessary in your own mind. But at me as a leader, I need to make sure that I'm giving you your left and right limits, as we say in the military, right? I want you to know, this is what I want you to do. This is what the end result I want you to accomplish. And when you're done with that, I need you to come back to me. Now, if I just tell a guy, hey, go paint the fence white. Okay, well, when does it need to be done by? What fence are you talking about? There's all these things that can be gone into translation when this
person goes to do whatever you tell them to go do. So, it was super important for me to have a leadership aspect in there. Obviously, I think we sprinkled in some, we sprinkled in some marketing, some sales, postcards, how we do those things. And we try to just give as much information as we could on this sales training platform. So there was verticals for everybody. And for me, it really, I love the leadership portion of it. That's one of my favorite things. And having everybody in the boat rowing in the same direction is super important. And we have to keep ourselves accountable as owners, and we have to self-develop as well. Because at the end of the day, I tell everybody, we all look up to somebody, and at the end of the day, all of our movers are looking up to us. So if we're not self-developing, are we ultimately being leaders?
Right. Totally. And is there any like big books that you're reading right now, or anything that you are working on for yourself that you'd say that, hey, this is key right now in my business?
Man, I just finished a book by Ed Milet called The Power of One More. That was a phenomenal book. I'm actually on the fatherly side of me. I'm reading a book right now on how to build mentally strong kids, which is kind of cool too, because there's actually stuff in there about building your kids, but it's the human psychological aspect of it, which translates right over to employees. How do you treat them? How do you recognize them for things that they've done, and when they have done the things right? If you're treating your employees like, you only getting onto them when they're doing stuff wrong, what about the days that they go out and they've got raving fans, happy customers, they got $100 tips, you got 6 reviews that day. What are you doing? And if you're not coming back and thanking them and congratulating them and staying, keeping them happy, and you're only getting onto them when they're breaking shit, then would you want to work for you? Right. And I'm guilty of that, man. Like I found myself as I think I have like the elitist mindset, and I just expect the best out of people. Right. And so when they do their best and they do good, for me, it's like, oh, that's expected. Right. You should do the good. But everybody's different. And, I think there's marital books out there, right? There's the 7 love languages, right? And, everybody has a different way of thriving. I have a different way of feeling appreciated, and knowing your teammates and your staff of how they feel appreciated is important. So yeah, man, I could talk in so many different directions on this platform that we've put together, but
it's interesting because you talked about the 7 love languages, and I remember being in my early 30s and my wife being like, "You should read this book." And after I read that book, it totally actually changed my mental thinking, not so much about my relationship, but more about how, as a business owner, I was treating each person, because everybody was like, "You did a great job. Everybody gets $100." Like kind of thing, right? Like, "Oh, you've everybody's hit these things. Fantastic. Everybody wins a prize." And half of them didn't care. Right. Half of them were just like, "Oh, awesome. Like, thanks so much." And I didn't realize that maybe they just wanted like a paid day off, or they wanted like to spend with their family. Maybe there was all these different qualities and characteristics that people wanted to, because that was kind of like their love language in quotes. And, even though we were representing them as a bunch of guys and movers, but, we're all the same, and we all kind of have different values that we want. And not everybody cares about the money. Sometimes not everybody cares about that time off. You have to understand each one's. And if you can work with that as a business owner, you are, making yourself, you're leading yourself in the right direction.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's so important to take care of people in their way that they feel appreciated. Because at the end of the day, our business is a human capital thing, right? And when you lose your good guys because you're not thanking them or you're not appreciating them, and like you said, you could be giving those guys $100 bills every day, but if all they're looking for is a handshake and a good job and a thank you, that's more important to them than the $100 bill that you're saying, "Hey, good job. All right, see you later." And finding that and being in tune with that is important.
Because I always say in the beginning, there's always more. After fitness, because we're going to jump back into it, onto this program, you guys have a whole marketing aspect of videos that talk about branding and talk about making sure, there's it's a way to help you with also marketing your business. And and you guys also make sure you can keep track of those staff that are finishing everything as well too. But one of the last things I also want to talk about is the file vault, because what I found is I remember talking to another moving company that was like, okay, this is cool, but we already have our stuff. And I think this was even brought up when it got launched in the beginning, going like, okay, cool, but like I want to add on to my stuff on there. I want to have things that are accessible because we already made all these systems in place. We already have all these processes, and Tighten Up Training actually has the accessibility for you to upload those files into a file vault.
Yep.
Was that part of the whole thought process? Was that like an afterthought, or you're like, did you guys already kind of tackle all that? Like when you guys started it, was there this whole brainstorming idea of thinking, okay, like what can we do to handle the objectives of the moving company owners that are going to go, oh, okay, I already done this, or I've done that. Like, how was that thought process?
No, and that was the topic of a lot of discussions, is that we didn't want to build out SOPs for a company, right? Everybody has their own SOPs because of how they run their business. We just wanted to give people the foundational training of how to do things. And, from the mover training side to the leadership side to the sales training, it's not SOP based in my personal opinion. I am an insider looking out, if you will, but we try to just bring value to how do you sell a customer, believing in what you sell, understanding your customer's needs, how to follow up with them without being a pest or doing, this, whatever, whether it's a 6X or 5X or 10X, whatever you want it to be, sales process. Now there's things in there we suggest, but we didn't want to be the ones to, say, hey, you should be doing this. This is the SOPs you should be running. We didn't feel like that was necessary. We wanted to give people the ability to upload their own SOPs in there, utilizing the content that we have to say, hey, this is how we do a move. This is how we execute a move. But while you're doing that, this is how you wrap a piece of furniture. This is how you so that there's a standard across the board of how things are getting done, and they're getting done right. So it was a constant challenge for us as we're developing content and we're putting stuff out there that, one, we were giving you the ability to put in your own stuff, right, for your company specific needs. But we're also not teaching a SOP per se. So it was this like fine line we were trying to walk the whole time, which is funny. And it even came down to when we were talking about how to handle parts, right? There's a million different ways you can handle parts, whether it's taping them to this or putting them in that, a parts box, or, none of this is gold. It's just a suggestion, and whatever works best for you, that's what we want you guys to do.
I like that, and it's like, to make that clarity, it's really a guideline across the board for everything, right? Mm-hmm. Like, don't make this like your Bible of how your moving company should run, but utilize this as like a strong starting point guideline of the fundamentals and each different aspects in your business to do, which I think is so important. There must be like a blooper reel of like all the training videos. Like how many, like I want to see when that comes out, because everything looks so perfect when you guys are doing these videos. When I'm watching them and watching how it's all done, I mean, how many takes? Was this like a massive long process for the videos to get created?
Yeah, it was. Well, we weighed our options, right? We knew if we were going to be doing scripted, tutorials, that it was going to be, one, a very lengthy process, and two, a very expensive process. So we had to basically do everything and hey, I need you guys to go wrap this couch, right? And then we would stop them, we'd cut it, we'd go back, we'd have different camera angles so that we could cut out certain things or not show certain sides. And I'm sure people have picked this thing apart of things that we could have done better. Yeah, I get it. But at the end of the day, it was more like, hey, just get this done. And then once we get the video complete, we'll be able to do a voiceover and explain everything that we want. Because I don't know if you guys have ever tried to shoot a 30-second video on Facebook or something like that. That's a script. How many times do you shoot that thing? Like 30 times. And you're talking about 30 seconds, right? Now imagine a 4 or 5 minute video going perfect. And so it was really about optimizing the time and the money with the resources that we had to where we weren't paying $1 million for production for this thing, which but we're about a quarter of the million in. But it was fun.
Was it like a rock, paper, scissors on who's doing the voiceover? Whose voice we're going to use? It ended up just being Wade's voice.
There was, but there was also an availability standpoint. I think we all kind of laughed and were like, Wade, you've got the radio voice. So
Nice.
he ended up,
that totally makes sense.
He ended up getting picked for that. But at the time, it was an availability thing too. Like I had stuff going on, Chad had stuff going on, and ultimately Wade, for whatever reason, was free at that time. So he drew the short straw, if you will. But I think he did a wonderful job, and he's very good at articulating things. So we're happy with the product.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. Now, I think the last two main questions that I'm going to bring up before we kind of end this, because I think we kind of tackled all of the different areas and what you can do. For someone looking to sign up for Tighten Up training, is there like a trial basis? Is there something that someone can like log on and go, okay, I really just want to test this thing out? Like that 7-day free trial process, or, is there a way that someone can reach out to Faith or yourself or someone on the team that says, I just want to try this out to see if it even makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can go on to tightenuptraining.com. You can put in your information there. I think Faith is running like a 48-hour trial period, basically. So you could jump in there, see it for 24, 48 hours, show your ops manager, whoever's going to be doing that, and then at least get some eyes on it before you spend your money on it. But just reach out. The information's on the website. Make it easy for you. tightenuptraining.com, and Faith will be your go-to. And she'll also set up a demo. So she's happy to walk through it, show you everything, and then give you the access. So try to give you an all-in-one solution there.
Okay, love that. The other question is I know this is new. This is like version 1, but what's like in the mix for coming up? Like at the next Tighten retreat in October, for anybody that's interested in going and wants to learn more about Tighten Up or the Moving Tighten retreats, check them out. We'll probably have a Movified code for anybody that is interested in going. Better talk to Faith about that, but let's definitely get this out sponsored and in October. But is there going to be something new? Like, is there something you could share saying, hey, like, we've figured this out, but coming up already, we have all these great ideas that we want to implement. Is there anything you can share to say, hey guys, like get ready because there's even better stuff coming on to the platform?
So we've got a couple different verticals that we're looking at right now. We're actually even in talks with the ATA to potentially, put on some of their stuff to help with insurance and driver safety. And so there's a lot of different things we're throwing around right now. We're just kind of trying to prioritize it, get people's feedback, and see what's most important. We are looking at building out some of the ops stuff, how to handle things during, in ops, whether it's dispatch, the day-to-day stuff, customer service. We've even talked about building out the financial aspect of it, of how to analyze your business on a local level. But moving is so dynamic, and everybody's company is so different. How do we do this the right way without building, one unanimous moving company, unless we all wanted to do that, right? There's definitely
That's
things
cool.
in development. We want more feedback. We want to hear what you guys want, what you guys need. That way we can continue to develop this and continually bring a new product to you guys, on a biannual basis.
You hear that, everybody? Those 400 or so subscribers already so far. I think as of the end of April, as we're recording this, I remember Wade saying something that was close to around there. It probably even skyrocketed because of how cool this program is and how you totally want to check this out. But send them back the feedback. Don't just use this platform love it and not let them know how much you love it, because we just talked about giving praise where praise is due. If this program is working for you guys, let them know. Let them know the success stories. Share those success stories in the Q&A in Spotify on here, or even on like the message platforms that we have on Movified, or even like let them know personally. But they would love to know what is working for you and what's not working, because they also want to know where they can improve. I think, right? That would be hands down, John, what you want.
Yeah. Yep. Feedback is we love it, man. Again, feedback is the best thing I think that we can get from you guys, because everyone can complain, but if we want to bring solutions, give us that hardcore feedback. You're not going to hurt our feelings. None of us are perfect here. We just want to provide a product that everyone's happy with, and continually make it better.
Awesome, John. Well, we're going to have you back on so we can really dive deep into Brooks moving and hauling, and talk about how you're launching this whole international division, how that's going for you, because we have an international division as well at Salmon's Transfer, and it's a whole different ballgame. And I think a lot of listeners would love to understand how to get into the international market as well, too. It can be lucrative. It also can be a real pain in the butt. So
yes.
It's definitely worth another podcast for that. Thank you so much for being on the show. And until next time, I guess.
Absolutely, Mark. Thanks for having me, man. And again, always a pleasure.